Greetings and welcome back to Tansson Talks. I really hope that you are doing well. I'm Brandon, of course, the host, and I just absolutely love doing this show. And yeah, and working to end out, like I said, the summer season, I'm just so excited to have my guest here today, BJ. Welcome to the show, BJ.
Thank you for having me, Brandon. I'm excited for the conversation we're about to have.
Yeah, I'm excited, like I said, to have a conversation with you as well. So first of all, how are you doing today?
Can't complain about anything. I'm doing pretty good. I had a late night last night, so didn't really get up until like an hour before our recording. So yeah, really ain't anything I can complain about.
Well, that's good at least. Hopefully it was, like I said, at least a good late night.
Oh, it was for sure. Appreciate you asking me that.
Yeah, of course. And so, BJ, before we get started, if you're able to go ahead and introduce yourself to the watching and listening audience here today.
No problem. My name is BJ Deongzon. I also go by BJPlaysPC on the internet on all the socials that I have. I'm a content creator. I do YouTube and Twitch. I try to stream daily on both platforms, and yeah, it's something that I want to do in the future.
And I certainly believe that you do it, quite well. And like I said, it's just such a pleasure to have you here on the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so I definitely wanted to, like I said, start off by asking. So right now, of course, like you mentioned, that you are a Twitch streamer, and so how has that whole process been for you as a streamer?
The whole process, it started back in 2018. It was around the time I was a freshman in high school. Around that time, Fortnite was the biggest thing. Everyone would talk about it. I watched a couple streamers. I was like, this looks really cool. I can play the game, stream, potentially make something out of it. I tried it in 2018. Oh, that was I look back at all those. There's a lot more to streaming than I thought there was back then. I thought it was literally just put the game on the screen, play the game. There's a chat, just be like, oh hey, what's up? There's a lot more to it with quality production, um, promotion in the background, connections with other people, and I'd say throughout my time since 2018, the process has been a very steep learning curve, but looking back, I'm proud to say that I've gotten where I've gotten in the 6 years that I've been streaming. So yeah, it's been a cool process.
Well, I'm certainly glad that it's been a good process, and yeah, and does it feel real that it's been a whole 6 years?
Uh, it really hasn't. Sometimes I feel like I'm still in COVID. It's just like because that's when I probably was at the height of my streaming, and not in terms of like viewership or like interactions, but like in terms of when I was really motivated at first to just get it going and understand what streaming was. But it is crazy to me that it's been 4 years since COVID, essentially.
I know. Like for me, even it's like I know the time from 2020 to I'd say about 2022. I think was just truly that time where I know I was figuring everything out and really getting like my groove into how I want to do content going forward. And I know even before streaming that you were doing some content stuff even before that.
Yeah, for sure. I was doing some. I know we discussed it a little bit. I was doing some IRL content. I said that I started making videos in 2014, but those videos are kind of just like, you got a kid with an iPad. I mean, you see all the YouTubers. You grab the iPad, you put it like in front of your face. You just say, "Hey, what's up?" But you don't really know what's going on. So that's kind of where I started. I also did make gaming videos here and there, but again, a lot of things I learned throughout the time, and it's been a good process.
Well, that's good, like I said, overall. But but from the time of doing, like I said, your IRL content to streaming to now, I mean, like I said, since you mentioned 2014, I mean that would be a whole decade to now. And so, like, how do you feel like that is has mainly become like your lifestyle and truly a part of you?
That's a good question. In 2014, of course, there was all those big YouTubers. Someone who always kind of was into the gaming space. Saw a bunch of Minecraft streamers, or not streamers. That wasn't really big at the time. I guess like Minecraft YouTubers, and you know, I was just like that it just looked to me, it looked like a lot of fun, to be able to play a game, have a community behind you essentially, and get to know more people throughout the space because of what you're doing in said content. um yeah, it's something that's always struck me as something that I want to do, and I can only say the passion since 2014 has gotten a lot bigger.
Well, I'm certainly glad that it has. And so, at what point, if you remember, since it was a decade ago, and I guess actually majority of your life doing content, but but in thinking back, do you remember like what prompted you to, I mean, to join into it, from going from watching the YouTubers you thought of as fun to wanting to do it yourself and actually pursuing it?
I will say, as a kid, it was definitely more about having, a high sub count or high viewership. But I mean, it's not as much as it is for me as it was now. To me, I want to have a community where, everyone loves to be in the chat and loves to, watch the videos, support, be a part of my journey as a content creator, see me grow instead of how it was back then, where it was like, oh, I need to be like as big as those other Minecraft YouTubers. But to me, it's I've fallen in love with like the journey, the process, and it's all been worth it to me, and especially in the past few years.
Well, I'm so glad it was that it has been, worth it. But definitely, deep diving into it. You mentioned, of course, that the pandemic time was when you really, hit your peak in terms of like your, at least, enjoyment in it and finding, what you wanted to do. And so was that largely like because of the pandemic, like for giving you time, or were there additional reasons, or sort of a mixture of things?
I think for sure without the pandemic, I may not be doing content like I am currently. I may be doing it more as a hobby in a sort of sense. I'm currently doing it as a hobby too. It's not my main job yet, but yeah, it would definitely not have been something I would try to pursue long time. Before the pandemic, I was trying to do a bunch of physical therapy stuff, trying to get into that space of a career in some sort. But then the pandemic hit. We were all inside. Uh, I was already gaming before the pandemic, so I was like, I might as well give it a try. And because of the pandemic, I can say that it definitely has led to some butterfly effect that's led me to where I'm at now.
And so, would you say that, I mean, that truly the pandemic and your desire to just continue with that, I mean, truly led to the life that you have now?
I'd say, yeah, I'd say the pandemic has definitely led me to where I'm at right now. I think about it a lot actually. Especially because during the pandemic, we're on our devices a lot. I was watching a bunch of YouTube, I was watching Twitch. That definitely wanted me to like do it more because I was just exposed to that area more than I usually would be if it wasn't for the pandemic.
And and before I go into my next question, I want to ask about your life during during the height of the pandemic. I did actually want to backtrack a little bit. So since you mentioned that you had wanted to, prior to the pandemic, pursue like potentially like physical therapy, and so like what were some of your your overall interests? I mean, prior to the pandemic and leading up to it.
Prior to the pandemic, I did cross country and track and field for my high school. It was something I was really passionate about before the pandemic. I was a very competitive person. I still am a competitive person, even if you could apply it to the content space too. But with said competition, when the pandemic hit, we all were inside. We couldn't compete. So there really wasn't that drive I had where it was like, I'm gonna go over to this track meet. I'm gonna perform well. There was nothing really to prove at that point. Luckily, towards the end, because I graduated in 21, so they opened up a bunch of things at the end of our year. So I was able to get one last uh, season in. Made it to the state meet, so that was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, I didn't really look into running. Before I wanted to try to run D1, uh, that didn't happen, and then did physical therapy in my senior year. The interest just fell off after the pandemic.
I mean, well, that's overall. I mean, interesting. Yeah, interesting to know. And would you attribute that to, wanting to like pursue other options like your streaming, or just that you had been away from it so long that it just doesn't have as much interest to you?
I'd say they both play a part for sure. Trying to think back, trying to backtrack to around that COVID time. Yeah, early COVID, of course, was grinding streams, not really knowing what I was doing, but I fell in love with it. Because of that, it led to me spending more time trying to work on that craft. Essentially, with that happening, I didn't put as much time and effort as I liked into the other two things that I liked, and for me, it's like I always like to put full effort into something that I like to do, and I don't like putting half attention here, half attention there. So it kind of just became I chose that pathway.
Yeah, I completely understand that because I know, like for me, I mean, I'm certainly evolved in a lot and have interest in so many different areas, but in the same regard, like I don't, as much as I love, of course, staying active with stuff I started involvement with. At the same time, I don't like being a passive participant in things. I like being
Yeah,
very active and like knowing that what I do like actually had an impact and not just like, oh well, my name's on the page.
yeah, for sure. I definitely relate to that.
Yeah, and so I guess like with your cross country track and field, I know you mentioned, of course, that you were very competitive, and and I can see behind you, of course. I'm sure all of the different like medals you've gotten, I presume from over the years.
Uh, Interesting thing. Most of those medals, I don't know if you know cup stacking. It's like,
Yes.
yeah, I was, I was pretty good at that. Like around middle school, I was top 7 in the state actually officially. So it was a crazy time. Yeah, most of those medals come from Junior Olympics and stuff like that. But that's also actually that is a good way to think about how I made content too. Uh, Back in 2014, I was also watching a bunch of uh big cup stacking like YouTubers. It's a very small niche at the time, but because it was something that interested me, I made content like that. I did challenges. I posted my my times and everything. Yeah, yeah, that was another thing that got me essentially into the content creation space.
That's actually so fascinating. I'm glad I asked about that. And so, how long had you been involved like with the cup stacking world?
I entered it in second grade. There was a club at the school that I went to. Most people they first discover it in the gym because there's apparently for me I never had that curriculum where we learned it in the gym. Yeah, we just had a club. I joined it, something I fell in love with really quickly. I grinded it, uh, and as time went on, I was like, I could probably make the Team USA team. I didn't make it, but I mean, it was what it was. I just there was a lot of tournaments that you had to go to, and essentially, it was just a lot of time that we didn't have at the time.
Well, that's nevertheless so fascinating and interesting how that sort of relays into how you are doing things now. And I mean, of course, you mentioned that you are competitive, so I can see that it doesn't just go for just your video games and track. That I mean, that's all across the board for you.
Yeah, like I said, I've always been had that competitive, aspect to me. I just whenever I do something, I always want to be near the top at it. I don't want to be. Uh, I guess the word would be mediocre at it. It's just I don't know. It even happens with current games. A lot of my friends are like, "Oh, you should play this game with us." But I'm like, I'm currently like grinding this game. I'm sorry, but like I'm just trying to like I get on with them here and there, but when I have something set aside, I usually just try to focus on what I want to focus on. Just being competitive, I always wanted to be trying to hang on to that top group. Maybe professionals a little bit too far up, but at least be like someone where it's like you come to watch me and you're like, oh, this guy's pretty decent at the game, instead of like I'm just struggling to like find the inputs and everything.
Yeah, that just makes perfect sense because I know it's one of those things where it's like not quite saying that you're like a perfectionist per se, but at the same time, like you don't want to give the impression that like you don't know what you're doing. So it's
Yeah,
like you want to sort of just keep perfecting your craft. Okay, maybe it is a little bit perfectionist, but I certainly am very guilty of that myself in terms of like video editing. It's just like I just want to make sure it's like, is it the best I can do? I'm making sure I can really hone my craft. And I don't know. At least for me as a creator, I know that what my interests are, but the same regard too. It's just like continuously working to even make sure that I can improve each time.
Yeah. It's like what I brought up earlier too. It's like falling in love with the process. I've always loved, being bad at something to start with, and then work my way up to a point where it's like, okay, I can kind of brag about it here and there. But there's always been something that's interested me. I've always loved getting better at something. I always love seeing the results. It's something that just, I love to do during my free time and when I'm doing my work too.
Well, I'm overall, like I said, glad that that you're able to continue progressing like with your craft and everything. So continuing on though to a question I had a little bit beforehand. So overall, we've mentioned that the pandemic played a big part in you pursuing your content a bit more. And so overall, like, how did your lifestyle? Really, like switch during that what felt like very extensive time.
The lifestyle definitely, before then it was junior in high school. Get up 6:30 a.m., go to school, come back, do practice, come back, all that kind of stuff. That whole part of my schedule was just completely gone. So, it definitely, in terms of lifestyle, I was still running a little bit during COVID, but just like for overall fitness and just in case competitions were to come back. Because at the time we didn't really know how COVID was going to play out. We didn't know we'd be because originally it was that the 2 week break. We didn't think it was going to be like a whole year where it's like, oh my god, there's just nothing we can do. Uh, but yeah, my lifestyle definitely has been more at home to just kind of doing what I can on the computer to try to progress certain things. Uh, I still try to do my fitness stuff here and there, but it's definitely not as extensive as it was beforehand.
Well, that's what I said. Just overall, I mean, I'm glad at least that you were able to, as that continue at least to some extent or another, like with keeping your fitness and for your personal well being, and at least have some sort of schedule with that as some point of consistency. But so when at what point did you decide like to start consistently streaming? Because I know, of course, now that you're doing almost daily, if not daily, like most of the time
Hmm.
anyway.
Yeah. I'd say an important part in the timeline for me is I'd gone to community college right after high school. What essentially happened, I did the first year. I was still working on content, but because of me trying to also work on my studies too, I was also like, I don't know. I want to kind of give it a year, see what I can do to try to learn as much as I can within this year, and then I'll go back to community college, continue studies, because to me, education is still important. Um, I talked to my parents. I had a long talk with them before I think the spring semester of 2022. I think spring semester of 2022. I talked to them. I was like, listen, this is something I'm passionate about. I want to give it a year. Uh, Trust me when I say I will go back for some more education. I just want to see what I can learn within a year. And they essentially were like, yeah, we're okay with that as long as you go back to education after, because they want me to get my studies in, have a backup plan, of course. Uh, which I thank them for that. Without them, I definitely feel like I would put all my eggs in a basket all the time, and I do need that kind of guidance still. I would say.
Well, I like that. Well, I said that you want to appreciate the guidance, of course, and but that you're also willing to, as that, to take that bet on yourself, for that year time frame. And so thus far, like, how far are you into this year for yourself?
So the gap year that I took, it ended in uh this past semester. So I'm back in school currently. Trying to do some business stuff over at Virginia Peninsula currently. Uh, During the gap year, I was doing a lot more like Overwatch content. I wasn't really into Fortnite at the time. When I was doing Overwatch, I'd seen a lot of progress in my content. Not in terms of like the sub count, but I felt more confident about understanding how to approach YouTube, how to approach streaming in a certain way. Uh, that essentially set me up for this year in terms of making YouTube shorts, making YouTube content, going live on YouTube. It definitely set me up for the better. Even though I didn't see the results right away, I definitely think that gap year brought a lot out of me that I didn't know I had. I remember I made a video at the end of the year before I returned back to school. I was like, you know, thanking to my parents for allowing me to do what I want to do for a year. Um, but it definitely unlocked something within me, thinking like, now I know what I can do if I'm given the time. Uh, I already have the passion for it. I just got to figure out what I can efficiently work on, uh, where I can improve in many areas. But there's a lot of things that my eyes just opened for content.
And overall, like, yeah, for that year, like, since you mentioned that, that opened your eyes for, for both things you can do for your content and for yourself, like, how did your overall year look like? Did you know what you wanted to do going into that year and how you wanted to structure, or did you just sort of go with the flow with it?
It was a very weird kind of year that I was, if I'm gonna be honest. I started the year, I was like, oh, I have all this time to me. I can definitely hit 5,000 subs if I'm just like consistent with it. Um, I hit around 600 in July. I was just sitting downstairs. I was thinking to myself, I was like, am I really like, am I really like, built to do content like that? And then, I had a conversation with my brother and with other content creators. They were just like, you shouldn't really look at the count. What you need to be focusing on is the quality of your content. Get that up, and with that comes the subscribers, comes the viewership. But because of my conversations with many people near me, I fell in love with the process. Uh, the second half of the year, I was very burnt out. That was something I learned too. Trying to figure out when I should take breaks or like how efficiently I could have my time set so it wasn't like I walk to the computer, I'm like, oh, I gotta stream again, because at the halfway point of the year it did feel like more of a chore to do instead of something that I was very passionate about. So took that break, tried to realign my goals, and yeah, it was definitely very, it taught me a lot for sure.
Well, I'm glad it was able to teach you. And I know from personal experience, I spent 2021 trying to make it the most productive year ever. And I know that by the time like October came around, I was just, it felt a little defeating
Hmm.
just because it was just like I know I've been very productive and I've greatly, improved as a creator and as a person, but in the same regard too, it's just like, you know, I think that the audience can begin noticing when you don't feel as passionate about something as you once were,
Yeah.
um, especially if you're beginning that burnout phase. So I'm glad that at least that you were able to recognize that and like how did you work to try to prevent future burnout?
For me, what I my approach was basically have a consistent schedule. Basically, I had somewhat of a consistent schedule at the beginning, but like I said, having a sort of structure to your life. You wake up in the morning, you go on a run, you go edit your videos in the middle. It just feels like clockwork essentially after that. Like it doesn't, you don't really think about it too much, and your brain's not really like, oh, I set this off for so long, I got to go back into it. And then when you go back into it, you're like, I don't want to do it anymore. So if you kind of just stay on top of it every day, uh, yeah, you fall more in love with it, in my opinion, especially if it's something you're passionate about. And then another thing is, I'm not focused too much on the subscriber count, the viewer count. I'll have my concerns here and there, but I always just tell myself if I'm putting work out every day, I'm doing my best I can to set up myself for the future. I'm always giving myself a chance. Essentially, what it is. I could have a video, have one view. I learn from it, understand, and attack it next time. Attack the weaknesses, and then just repeat the process every single time.
Yeah, I mean, I just 100% agree with that approach, and that was something I had done even going into this current iteration of my podcast. Was before I was doing like so many different releases, and I was like, you know what? Let's like let me take January 2023 off, and yeah, starting with February, once a week, no more, no less.
Hmm.
Um, and I think it really allowed for me to focus more on the one episode a week I put out, and to fully give my my best effort for it. And so, yeah, I 100% agree with that. I mean, just the importance of consistency, I think, is just so important. And so, of course, as we're mentioning right now, you do practically daily streams. And so, how has that been, for you, especially like with connecting like with your audience and viewers?
Uh, Being daily for sure has allowed me to connect a lot better for sure. As it used to be when I was streaming during, let's say, around COVID, it wasn't daily. It was more maybe like every uh once a week, or it was like 3 times a week, something like that. Uh, the thing with me streaming every day is I kind of want, like, again, another consistency thing. You think about a 24/7 kind of restaurant thing, like the kind of analogy, or you think like a store that you always go to has like these certain hours. It's something like, oh, you can always depend on this person to be here at this time. And me being live every day, I've had conversations with some of my friends. They're like, oh, it's 10 p.m. I know BJ is going to be live, so I could go over to watch BJ. So that's something that's allowed me to interact with more of my viewers, connect with new viewers, and it's definitely helped out a lot.
Well, I mean, I'm glad it has helped out, and I did want to definitely ask you, like, since you're mentioning like 10 p.m. is so like how generally so I guess overall, like within your schedule, when you're not streaming, like what else, are you doing? And so, and is your stream like the last thing that you do? I guess for your daily schedule.
So ideally, my daily schedule would go: I wake up in the morning, get a run in, kind of just I wake myself up, get a workout in, come home. Sometimes I have work from around noon to the mid afternoon. I get home, kind of just relax a bit, work on some videos. If I have content that I can make, because sometimes it's just stale. There's like nothing I can really edit. But if I have something I edit it during the mid afternoon, and then talk with friends, hang out, do whatever I need to decompress, go into the stream, you know, whatever I have planned for the day, and then end the stream at a very late time, and then kind of just repeat the process.
And yeah, and for the viewers who are tuning in, so like how long often are your average streams, or does it vary by video?
I really don't have a structured time, but with me going with the flow recently, they've gone to 4 to 5 hours, which is, to me, that's insane. Because I remember in like 2021 or 2022, my goal was like just stream 2 hours every day. That because as long as I'm consistent, I just don't want to burn out. But 2 hours a day, that's surely not a lot, right? But it was like I was exhausted, but like, I was like, how am I supposed to do 2 hours every day? But then I don't know. It could help. Also, I also have my friends on the stream with me all the time, so it just feels like I'm casually gaming, while talking with chat. So it's definitely helped out a lot.
I'm glad it has helped out, and that makes me think about like even for doing these discussions for the first few years, I was doing like half an hour, like 40 minutes most, no more,
Hmm.
than that. But yeah, as time went on, it's just like, well, I love having these discussions, and now thinking like half an hour, like that's so little,
Yeah.
compared to some of these discussions now. I mean, that's where we even are now. So I mean, I think it sort of grows with with your enjoyment of the craft. Sometimes is that especially like for the community that you have is that like I think nothing beats time that you're using spending with friends and with something that you genuinely enjoy, and so I'm glad that you're able to. I mean, to do it in a way that you want to do it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I guess another aspect for me is, I added YouTube to my streaming kind of thing, and there are a bunch of people over there that, I talk to a lot. And so it was like, I guess, being able to talk to more people in chat also helps with that, because I'd say around 2022, sometimes my chat just wouldn't. There, I mean, it's just part of the process, growing. There's not many in chat. Sometimes you're just playing the game, and then you're like, yeah, we'll just do 2 hours because I know like a lot of you guys are just here for this certain time, a time block. But like now it's kind of like I can see like people pop in even like at a late time. So I guess that's helped out too.
I'm certainly glad. I mean, that's worked out. But yeah, but I did want to ask you, some questions since I know that there were some things that you wanted to discuss as well. But how have you been working to make your content so that way, like, I mean, viewers can tune in and appreciate it and sort of join into your community? Because I know, like, right now, like, we all don't have like the same attention span as we did, like, even like a decade ago when we first
Yeah,
started content.
it's definitely been very weird to say the least to see that attention span just completely drop. People would be saying it's like, oh, it's the Mr. Beastification of content, which, I can see that. I understand, Mr. Beast, it's like one thing to get, like they're throwing a bunch of stuff at you. So I guess that also has dropped attention span. Um, I don't know. For me, recently I've been starting with like uh again, I have to be on the scroll content kind of thing, that kind of grind, because most people, it's just like their nature. It's just we just scroll on our phone. We don't even think about it. So for me to be competitive in that kind of area, I've started doing like intros. Like, I look at the camera, emphasize certain words, put like subtitles at the top, but nothing too much, because I still want like people to genuinely follow me for me. I don't want people to follow me because they're like, oh, I'm overstimulated. I just want, give a good intro, give them a good impression, and then from there, they can decide what they want to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just such a great approach. And how do you work to, I mean, to even balance doing things your way versus, I mean, trying to make sure, of course, that you can entice the viewers to even begin with? Because it certainly is somewhat of a balancing game.
It definitely is. I since I entered the YouTube Shorts kind of area of content, it was kind of, I try to study like other people, see what they're trying to do. A lot of the content to me just isn't very genuine content. It's you see they just ask a bunch of questions. It's basically engagement baiting, which is something that's been like very popular, especially in recent times. Uh, they'll be like, "Oh, say this, I'll ban you," when in reality they won't ban you. They're just trying to get engagement out of somebody. Trying to up the engagement, because in the current meta, the more like people engage with your content, the more viewership comes with it, which I understand, but engagement back then was definitely a lot more genuine than it was now. It wasn't baited out. People were, genuinely like, "Oh, this is a good video," or like they're giving feedback. Nowadays, it's like, I don't know. It's definitely something as a content creator, that's like doing it throughout the years. It's definitely sucked to like watch that happen, because it's always been something, if it's not me, like other content creators, there are a bunch of creators that they make genuinely good videos. It's high production, but they just don't have the everything that pops out of you kind of thing. So people just don't really pay as much attention as they should to it, in my opinion.
Yeah, and what's definitely hard about it is it's not like I'm a big TV person, so
Hmm.
to relate this to TV, it's not like that there's only like three options to choose from, yeah, and just pick one of these shows. I mean, you have so many amazing like YouTube channels and streamers and all these people available that sometimes it's unfortunately just sort of the clickbaity, not really genuine videos that are getting more traction than people who are doing this because they're maybe genuine love for the craft and community.
Yeah. I'd say another thing too is with the increase in like scroll content, the scroll culture. We got TikTok, we got Reels. I'm not really on Facebook, but I'm sure they have their method of scrolling. YouTube Shorts, of course. What sucks is, when I was at first on YouTube, and especially when I was falling in love with that process, I was like, I want people to follow me for like what I'm putting out. Like they love like the narrative I try to put in a video, or like they follow along to the very end. But now it's like you gotta be on that vertical content grind. You put out a video. I was talking about this the other day with some friends. I was saying like it sucks because I feel like I can't, you know, portray myself in a minute. I can't give a viewer a good. I mean, I can give them a decent impression of me, but they won't know me off of like one short. They're just gonna see the short. They'd be like, "Oh, this guy's pretty cool," or they could think whatever. But to me, like I said, I'd rather have a small following that's genuine rather than you got like 5 million subscribers, but all of them just followed you because you did some trend and you're barely even in the video kind of thing.
I completely understand that, and I feel the same way. Not necessarily. I mean, not really chasing viewers and subscribers, but instead just working to just make genuine content that I think can that think we can help out. But I want to take that too. And so overall, like how's it been? Like I guess noticing these different trends, and then like what would you say is even the state of like long form content now, especially in the age of all of these reels and vertical videos and everything in between.
I definitely say the progression has been at least it's been disappointing to me. I understand meta's changed everything, but like I said, there was a lot of YouTubers I used to watch that make long form content, but because everyone is just scrolling instead of like genuinely trying to look for a video that interests them, their views go down. And you know, uh, to me, it's just like I don't know. You get rewarded more nowadays for being lazy, it seems. And I've had conversations with content creators. They just post like maybe 3 to 6 shorts a day. I try to do that too, but I mean, if I'm like trying to heavily edit it, I don't have the time to post that many. Like I don't know. It's definitely been rough to watch because it feels just like genuine content has just gone down the drain. And with the decrease of people going to long form content, there's a bunch of small YouTubers. I go through YouTube, I just want to see how everyone's doing. There's a bunch of small YouTubers out there. They make really good long form videos, high quality, genuine personality, but because they're not following the meta, quote unquote, they just don't get any viewership, which it just sucks. It doesn't feel like we're appreciating true content.
I like how you put that. I mean, true content, and yeah, I mean, I definitely have. Yeah, I mean, have seen it even since 2016, like when I started putting out content. Like how much has changed, especially in I mean, in viewing habits and everything in I mean, in between. But overall, like, would you say that you honestly like the way that you do things now, like with the way that you're balancing things?
I think I think I've got it balanced pretty decently for now. Of course, there's always room for improvement, but I think where I want to be at right now, it's definitely as good as I think I can get. Because I understand, I got to be on the scroll content. I got to be on top of that because that is the current meta. As sad as that is, when we think about it, we have to kind of you know use that meta while it's there. It's known to grow channels. Um, but like I said, even while I make those scroll content, I'm not trying to make something where it's engagement bait. It's just it's a genuine clip of me, and I make an intro, try to introduce myself a little bit. But yeah, I'd say it hasn't been that bad.
But that certainly, like I said, is good. And yeah, and you mentioned a little bit that like, yeah, I mean, different, yeah, creators and have conversations with them. So how's it been for you, like being able to meet other creators, whether they're yeah personal friends or people that you've met through your content, and I guess everything in between there.
It's definitely been very cool. When I first was trying to get into the content scene, it was kind of just me, myself, and I. It was kind of just watching the big YouTubers, and to be honest, you can't learn a lot from big content creators. You think about it, they grew a long time ago. They grew in a different meta. They have a different audience. The niche is different, whatever it may be. Luckily for me, through the video games I've played, to the people I've met online, through mutual friends too. I was able to have a lot of good conversations with them, become good friends with them, and it's just nice because now there's also people around you that have the similar goal of I want to be a content creator. And having that kind of culture around you, it's definitely helped out a lot.
Well, I'm certainly glad that it has. I mean, helped out a lot. And how would you say that? We spoke about this a little bit earlier, but how would you say that? I mean, that content in the present day has, yeah, and making it has affected your life, or even affected the way that you even consume content right now in this digital world.
I think it definitely has been beneficial to me, especially watching content currently. Like a term that everyone loves to use nowadays is brain rot, and there's just a lot of brain rot on the internet. You think I go into a bunch of videos, I start scrolling, and because I understand what people are trying to attack, in terms of like a viewer's mind, I can easily just get out of a cycle now because it's like, oh, I know what they're trying to do, so I just get off of it right away. But there's that, and also, I mean, yeah, just making content, understanding what people are trying to reach to a viewer, it's definitely helped out a lot because now I can like find genuine content easier than other people probably can. Because a lot of people, they don't know much about content. They'll just scroll. They'll be like, "Oh, that's cool," but they don't really look hard for what I feel like would definitely pique their interest.
But yeah, I mean, I completely know, like I said, with what you're saying there, and yeah, but switching gears though, just a little bit. So you had mentioned actually in one of the suggested things that you wanted to speak about as we were leading up to this discussion is that you had mentioned a little bit about the use of AI in content creation, and
Mhm.
so I definitely wanted to actually inquire about that because that wasn't even something I was even thinking about leading into this discussion. But I definitely would love to hear your perspective on that.
It's been something that's piqued my interest, especially recently. You go through content, you get a bunch of things promoted to you. You're like, oh, this will help grow your stream. With the power of AI, you could do this, and then I watch it here and there because I'm like, I'm interested. Like, how could AI help me? But it's just essentially they take like there's a one that was promoted to me. It was like download a random video online and then we'll clip it for you and then we'll put all these subtitles that just stimulate viewers. And I was like, well, that's just not that. Well, that's just not cool. I kind of get it if you're using AI for yourself, where it's like you have an AI clip your own channel and then do all the subtitles and all that. But even then, to me, it's like I look at content as an art. And I have artist friends, they make art. We have a conversation about AI and they hate AI. It's just, because it's not made by somebody, it's not a reflection of a person, it's not behind someone's mind. It's just made by computers and there's no genuine meaning behind it. Like you can't like there could be a meaning behind it, but like you can't really like delve in, try to understand it from a human perspective. So they definitely hated AI being used in art, and I can say the same, for content. I like watching a lot of different content creators create their art on the internet, and essentially when their art is taken away by an AI who that just clipped certain things and put stuff on it, it's tough to see.
Yeah, it truly is. I mean, just so tough to I mean be able to see that, and I know, of course, while it will continue to grow and whatnot and improve, I just hope that I don't know that it doesn't take away from, like you said, like the art that that we do, that the creativity that we have, because I mean, technology is definitely a useful tool, but it's not to like replace us, as
Yeah,
the ones doing it, because it's not really genuine, and it's not, well, human.
yeah. That's definitely been a point of concern for me. It's just I don't know, man. It's a lot. It's a lot of it's a lot of things that go in your mind, especially no matter what space you're in. I feel like every space, not even just content, like maybe like digital marketing or like business, anybody. Like you think of AI, you're like, oh, they could just something might happen in the future where it's like I don't know, you won't be as needed as much. But in terms of the content space, to keep it in like that area, um, I just don't want YouTube to become a complete AI, and there's just no genuine person behind the videos.
Yeah, especially with, I mean, like I think about the future of the algorithm, especially. So, but I suppose we'll see, and just sooner as opposed to later. But
Yeah,
I definitely hope that things progress in a genuine manner, to say the least.
yeah. Like I have no problem with people advancing technology and everything. That's just how it's gonna go, and it's gonna be probably more beneficial for us than it will harm us. But I just don't like it when people abuse that kind of thing and try to bring it into a space where that's not what we're looking for.
Yes, yes, that is definitely so true. Although it'd be nice if it can manage to fix some broken recordings,
Oh
though.
yeah,
That would be helpful.
for sure, it definitely would be. I think that's very acceptable.
Yes, yes. The funness of late night trying to fix, things and videos that can't quite be fixed. That is what I would like to see.
Yeah, I definitely could relate with that on some aspects. 'Cause it's just kind of like, oh, like a very small part of my clip is like corrupted a little bit. Can we just like try to recreate that a little bit, and then that'd be cool. I definitely think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, it definitely will be. But I mean, but speaking even about the human interaction, like part of, I mean, of video production, and of course, and with your streams as well, is that I know every once in a while, like you try to change it up. Like the first stream I actually saw from you, you had actually done a cooking stream.
Oh yeah, I think I do remember you popping. I think you came in from Justin's story, possibly, maybe. I don't
That's
remember.
correct.
Yeah. So yeah, I was doing a cooking stream at the time. I was celebrating 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, so I was like, let's change it up. Let's do something fun for the chat, or like they can see me fail at doing this. But yeah, we plan on doing another one eventually. But yeah, I like to uh, I kind of don't really change it up that often, but when I do change it up, I do try to go all out on what I want to do.
Well, that is, I mean, nice that you're able, I mean, to do that. And yeah, and out of curiosity, are there any other types of like videos that you would potentially want to try out in the future? Like I know, of course, in the past you had done more like in real life type of videos. Would you ever want to go back to that, or would you rather just stick with streaming and see where it goes from there?
I definitely like to go back to it. I think variety content is a nice way for somebody to really know who they're watching is basically. Uh, I do plan to go on to TwitchCon later in the year, so I was probably gonna make a video about that, or like make like some sort of vlog or something like that. Because I think IRL content is very fun to make. It because essentially the whole video is just reflecting the personality of you and the people in it, rather than we're watching for the game and possibly not the person that's playing the game.
Wow. Well, first of all, you're definitely going to have to let me know how TwitchCon goes, but yeah, I mean that is just so true about that. And it's interesting as I mean, in my thought, is how viewers can shift from going for the tuning in for the content, and then hopefully over time being able to tune in because like I want to watch BJ on the stream.
Yeah, and I do appreciate that. I do appreciate viewers that come in for me rather than the game. I understand, like that's why I play the game too, because I love the game, and everyone else loves the game too. But at the end of the day, I do want people to genuinely watch me for me rather than be like, oh, he's just another Fortnite streamer. Oh, he's just another Fortnite YouTuber. I can go here to watch more Fortnite stuff. But yeah, I mean, building a genuine bond between streamer and viewer, I think that's very important.
It just truly is. And yeah, and like I said, VJ, I've just been so enjoying, like I said, this conversation and being able to speak with you and get to know you, yeah, outside of just your Twitch streams.
I do appreciate having this conversation too, Brandon. It's definitely been something. There's definitely been a lot of topics that I do like to talk about, and on stream, not everyone's really thinking about the topic, so I don't really bring it up that often. So it's been a good conversation so far.
Well, I'm certainly, I mean, glad it has been. And yeah, and for some of the, last, little bit before we begin closing out, I did actually want to allow, a moment for us to go ahead and flip this. So did you have any questions, for me while we're speaking, or any topics that you want to cover that maybe we haven't already?
I guess I don't really do any podcast content. This is actually my first podcast I've been on, so I'm just curious. Like the approach, I guess. I know that we've talked about the editing aspect and post and everything, but I'm very interested in how things are set up.
Oh yeah, definitely. And so it's so interesting. I mean, thinking about things from the podcasting lens. And so like I know for me, like I do like a lot of a lot of planning to try to make sure that I'm able to not just like ask the right questions, because that's not really the right terminology for that. Just because I feel like every conversation is different in its own, in its own right. Like even a conversation we could have now is different than one we could have had, a few hours from now. But but in the same regard, it's just I think it's so nice being able to learn about the person themselves I'm speaking with. And so for me, like I like being able to find out like okay, you're a Twitch streamer. Well, how did that come about? And what do you like doing outside of just all that? So it's interesting to sort of see the bigger picture, so to speak,
Yeah.
because because I feel like with right now, especially like with the internet making it so easy to like to find other people's content and to learn more about them, is that from the human angle, it's like, well, who are you as a person? Like that's kind of what I want to know. And so like for me, I do a lot of work to try to make sure that I can best represent the amazing guests, including yourself, that I have on, and to to better understand like, okay, like this is an amazing person who does just these fantastic streams, and this is sort of the reason why, and being able to learn more about that. And so yeah, but certainly been fun doing that. And then in editing, like I love being able to to find things that I didn't know were there before. Like maybe there was something I didn't pay as much attention to during the discussion. Maybe there's some additional questions I have. So it's so interesting being able to be a part of the full process, from the the planning, the pre-production, to the actual discussion, to and editing, being able to take notes. And right now, like a lot of my uh, episode names are actually quotes from the episode, and so that stand out to me. And so overall, I would say that the process has been like very fun and rewarding.
Mhm.
Some parts are more tricky and uh, require a lot more effort, like editing. But nevertheless, each part of the process has its own, uh, has its own parts to it that that sort of just add to the process.
It was very interesting, to hear the whole kind of aspect of podcasting. I appreciate all the preparation that you've done to make sure this conversation goes as smoothly as possible, and I'm sure all of your other guests are very appreciative. It was a very fun space, to talk to. You do what you do outside of podcasting, like For me, when I stream, I don't really like delve into many things because, I mean, it doesn't pique many people's interest. So to be able to have conversations where it's like see what another person's like view on it is, especially between like us two, because I know like we're both in the content creation space, just the different niches, but it's nice to see or compare and understand like what other people see in that kind of regard.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I mean, I think just so rewarding to be able to have these sort of conversations that you don't really have a chance to have. I mean, in regular context per se.
Mhm.
Like I'm sure people don't really come up to you in streams and say, so like, what is your thought about about AI or like it's like remember back when you did cup stacking, but I feel like the podcast provides just such a unique avenue to get to learn more about somebody, beyond what you would have in a traditional one-on-one conversation.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm for me, a lot of people when they come in, the biggest questions is they're not really that big of questions. Maybe they bring up questions about a certain thing that was brought up like in the real world. We talk about it here, but it's not like we have a lengthy conversation about it. Or they just come in, they're like, "Oh, do you have any tips for a streamer or anything?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I got you." But those are basically like the biggest questions that I get, at least while I'm in that setting. But yeah, we definitely. I'd say a lot of the audience is on the younger end, so they don't come in. They'd be like, "What do you think about brain rot content, and why do you think long form is not doing as well?" But to me, those kind of like topics definitely pique my interest, at least right now.
Well, I'm certainly glad, like I said, that we have an avenue here to discuss that. And I did actually want to ask too, while we are speaking, is that so for you and communicating like with your chat, like how is that for you as a creator trying to balance that and of course concentrating on the game itself that you're playing?
It's definitely a balance that I haven't gotten completely down. I've gotten better at it over the past few months, but especially since I added YouTube chat to that like group. It's been a lot to balance. Uh, Kind of just having your chat understand, like you gotta give them like a reminder here and there. It's like, listen guys, I'm sorry I'm missing your messages. You can remind me to read a message. I will go back. I'll read it. But I've got a game to play in front of me, and a lot of times I'm in a tournament, so I just have to remind them. I'm like, listen guys, I know we want to have a chat. I know you're here to talk to me. Um, I will get to it. Just I'll focus on this thing. Once there's a bit of downtime, I will have a lengthy conversation with you. Trust me. I'm not trying to ignore anybody. It just kind of sucks though, because again, with the attention span thing that we talked about, a lot of people they're like, "Hi," they don't get a respond in like the next five. They don't get a response in the next 5 seconds. They're like, "Okay, like this guy's just not listening to me," and then they just scroll. But you know, uh, getting people that have pretty good attention spans is also pretty nice too.
That's certainly, like I said, I mean, so interesting to, like I said, to learn about from that perspective. And I guess my last, like I said, regular question before I head into the to the closing parts would be: so, how is it for you, like working with like I said, with Twitch because it's of course, live content versus the content you originally did when you start off, which of course is that is sort of produced in the sense that you have to record it and edit it and publish it, whereas for Twitch that's live, everything is right then and right now.
The process for me when I switched over to Twitch, I didn't really think about it too often. Because when I gamed, it was always just intriguing to me. It's like, oh, I'm playing this game. It's like everyone's around me just watching me play, which I always thought was just really cool. And uh, I would say the adjustment hasn't been that different. Definitely, you have to be more aware of like, oh, you're live right now. But like, I mean, I don't really have any issues like that like would make me think like, oh, I'm not live right now. I can't be doing like this. I can't be doing that. But just understanding like uh what people want to see, I guess, in the live sense is something that I'm still trying to learn. I don't really. I'm definitely better in terms of a meta of posting things. Putting it, looking at it in post. Editing everything, understanding places where I can just like cut off empty parts. And I think doing both of them at the same time has definitely helped me with that. Over the years, there's been a lot of like when I first started streaming, there's a bunch of dead space in my like VODs when I try to edit them. Nowadays, it's like there's not very many dull moments, and I think that's just been very good progression both on YouTube and on the live streaming end.
Well, like I said, BJ, it's been so fun being able to, like I said, to learn more about about you and just have this conversation. Like I said, as we're beginning to close out, I did want to ask. So, what does it mean for you to be able to tell your story outside of just your traditional streaming content?
It definitely means a lot. A lot of people, they don't think about what's going on behind the scenes. They tune into the stream, they tune into the YouTube video. Like I said, you get questions about how do you keep on streaming, or like how do you keep on making videos. I tell everybody this, whatever it is, this applies to everything, not just content. Fall in love with what you want to do. Fall in love with the process. Don't get too caught on comparing yourself to other people. You are you. You have your own career. You do what you want to do. Uh, don't overreact when something doesn't go your way, because that's just part of the process. If this is something you truly want to do, you got to stay consistent. You got to look at your weaknesses. You got to hear things you don't want to hear often. Get a bunch of criticism too. But as long as it's something you love to do, at the end of it, you're going to be rewarding your future self. And that's something that's something that's developed in my head in terms of my mind space in terms of the recent years. And it's definitely helped out a lot.
Well, I'm certainly glad, like I said, that it has. I mean, that this whole process has helped out, a lot. And so, for anyone who wants to tune into your streams or content and everything in between, where are the best places to find you online, BJ?
So the best places you guys could find me online. You could look for me on YouTube at BJPlaysPC. You can look for me at Twitch, twitch.tv/BJPlaysPC. Those are the two main areas where I really focus on. So yeah, I'd definitely be down for any one of you guys that are watching to come tune into a live stream or even leave a comment on YouTube. I'll respond to you.
Well, I love that, and I certainly hope that those tuning in definitely do so. And something I meant to ask earlier is, so right now, of course, you said that your long-term goal is to become a full-time streamer, and so where would you say that you are right now? Well, full-time content creator. And so looking forward, where would you say that you are heading right now?
I feel like I'm definitely heading in the right direction. There has been positive growth in every aspect. There's a bunch of things I need to work on. I think something that's very lackluster for me is my ability to connect with other streamers. I'd say. I feel like once I can get that down, that'll help with the process a lot more. Again, not trying to like leech off of another creator, but have a genuine have a genuine stream with them, or like a collab with them genuinely, and like be good friends with them. That's something that I think would be pretty helpful. But in terms of me focusing on myself, if I can keep on doing what I'm doing, I think there will be a good amount of success in the future, and I hope that's the case.
I love that. And last but certainly not least, I want to allow for you to go ahead and close out our episode today with whether it be an inspirational thought, life lesson, or whatever the case may be. The floor is all yours, BJ.
Well, I appreciate it, Brandon. Again, before we end the podcast, thank you to Brandon for having me. His podcasts are great, and I do appreciate the opportunity to talk. If I were to say one last thing before we end the podcast, again, like I said earlier, falling in love with the process. For me as a Twitch streamer has been something that a Twitch streamer content creator has helped me a lot. But again, it can help in many different aspects. You could be doing business, you could be doing physical therapy, you could be an athlete. Whatever you do, as long as you love what you're doing, no one can take that away from you. You can have a different result from somebody else. In my opinion, as long as you love what you're doing, you can't be mad at yourself at the end of the day.
I love that. I think that's just such a perfect message to end this out. Thank you so much, like I said, BJ, for for being here, and for those tuning in. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning into the Tansson Talk Show. I always appreciate your support, and continue tuning in every week as we continue on our mission to bring people together. I'll see you next time. Take care.